Colin, what is integrative presence?
Integrative presence. Probably the greatest discovery of my life. It's about the practice of being here now, being present with my intellect, my emotions, and my body. So it's about living life to the full with all my capacity. And what I realize is when I start to be that level of presence, it opens up a fourth function, which of course is creativity, inspiration, intuition. And my capacity to experience these deeper levels of myself relies on how present I am with my three basic human functions: intellect, emotions, and body. And many people who are intellectual, they're so intellectual that they're disconnected from their feelings. And other people who are very much emotional are disconnected from their thoughts. I mean, they have, of course, they are connected, but they are less connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people are quite unbalanced, and as a result of that, we don't develop that level of balanced presence, and therefore we deny that conscious connection with this fourth function.
Mm-hmm. Is it something like being centered, would you say?
Being centered is another way of describing it, and a very good way of describing it too. That when I'm talking to you now, that I'm not only coming just from my intellect, that I'm coming from my emotions and also from the power of my body. So the idea is we develop this capacity to be powerful in all levels, and power not over, but power over my own consciousness, which of course is being centered.
What's the difference between power over and power of being with my consciousness?
Yes, a very good question. Most people, when we come into this planet, we get the idea that there's something wrong with us, and all of society supports that idea. So we don't have high self-esteem. So the way we grow up is we learn to be in control of the environment, be in control of other people. And when I'm talking about that's power over, but when I'm in charge of my own consciousness, it's simply about being centered in myself. Power only over myself, my own consciousness. Not control, because that is power over, but being in charge, centered in my thoughts, centered in my emotions, and centered in my body.
Can you do these three at the same time?
Absolutely so, but it takes practice. See, an intellectual person, their center of gravity is here. So their whole world revolves around their knowledge, around their past experience, around their thoughts, and of course their beliefs. An emotional person whose center of gravity here is everything circles around, will I be happy? Will you love me? So it becomes an emotional motivation. And a person centered in their body, often very developed sports people, they're very centered here, but they don't think a lot, they don't feel much. So each of these people are disbalanced. And the whole idea is when I'm coming from here and here and here, I have that directiveness, I have that sensitivity, and I have that power all at the same time. That's being present.
And how can you develop it?
By paying attention to the center that we're weakest in. For example, most people, if they've been to university, their weakest center will in fact be their emotions. These people need to get out of their heads and come more into their emotions. And because the body holds the emotions, these people also need to be more in the body. So it's virtually not having to even develop it by any technique or means like that, but simply being focused, paying attention. An intellectual person needs to ask themselves, what am I feeling right now? And that is the worst question that intellectual people like to ask themselves. But it's the most important question.
Mm-hmm. Is there not a risk then that instead of feeling it, they will start describing it?
Yes.
From intellect,
Yeah.
what I'm feeling?
Because this is how I used to come from. And people ask me, what are you feeling, Colin? I would say, I think I feel. See, immediately I'm into my head, because an intellectual person feels safe with this part of them. And of course, an intellectual person is connected to the emotions in their body, but less so. And because of that, they're less powerful.
Mm-hmm. So is there a way to go to the direct experience, for example, for intellectual person? How can he or she go to the direct experience without conceptualizing, thinking?
Just pay attention to what they feel. You see, we have approximately 50,000 thoughts every day, and every thought creates an emotion. So in actual fact, we have 50,000 emotions every day. And every emotion will also create a physical sensation in the body. So that's 50,000. So if you add those three up, we have 150,000 experiences every day. And how many do we remember? Most people remember probably 4 or 5 at the most. And the only reason we remember them because they were the same 5 we had yesterday and the day before that. So we are virtually on automatic pilot. We're not present. In fact, I worked it out with all the people I've worked with over the last 30 years that the average person is present approximately 2.5% of the time, which means 97.5% they are lost in their heads or lost in their emotions. And when I say lost in these things, we get captured by our thoughts, which means we're not present with our thoughts. Our thoughts are running us. Our beliefs are running us. And for an emotional person who thinks that they are very much connected to their emotions, it's not true, because they're run by their emotions. They're washed away by their emotions, simply because they're not present with them. When we start developing the capacity to be present, then the balance happens. We start to be more centered in all three, and that's what opens the fourth function.